Whispers of Danger, a stormy haunted night. Back in 2008, I spent a weekend at my uncle's ranch while my parents were busy renovating our new house. It was my second night, a stormy Saturday during one of the biggest thunderstorms of the year. The thunder and lightning were relentless, with at least 3 crashes per minute. The storm was right on top of us. The thunder followed the lightning almost instantly. I've always enjoyed the soothing sounds of storms, so I stayed up a bit later, watching TV and soaking in the ambience. After the movie ended, I turned off the TV and tried to fall asleep. As lightning struck outside, I thought I heard a metallic thud accompanying it. At first, I dismissed it, but 20 seconds later, I heard it again, perfectly synchronized with the lightning. It was eerie, but I chalked it up to the storm. After the third time, curiosity got the better of me. I got out of bed and walked over to the guest bedroom window. The pouring rain made it hard to see beyond the dark fields. A flash of lightning briefly illuminated the property, but I couldn't see anything. Yet, the distinct metallic thud persisted, coming from the left of the window in a blind spot. Despite my uneasy feelings about my somewhat creepy uncle, I hesitated to wake him up. But as the mysterious sound continued, I became increasingly concerned. What on earth could it be? After the third occurrence, I decided to take matters into my own hands, even if it meant upsetting my uncle. I opened the window, braving the storm's gusts and rain. I peered out, and in that moment of lightning brilliance, I saw a person dressed in black, crouched by the outside basement door, repeatedly striking the lock. Terrified, I shut the window, making sure it was locked, and returned to bed, feigning sleep. Another lightning crash came, but this time, no metallic thud followed. Panic set in. Had he seen me? I lay frozen for what felt like an eternity, hoping the intruder would leave. After a few more lightning crashes without accompanying thuds, I mustered the courage to tell my uncle. I turned to face the window, only to scream at the sight of a figure staring in at me. Panicking, I raced to my uncle's room. Armed with his hunting rifle and clad only in pajamas, he combed the entire property, yelling into the storm like a madman. But the intruder was nowhere to be found. The next morning, in the light of day, we examined the marks on the basement door lock. It was severely damaged, just a few more hits away from being breached. My uncle commended me for picking up on the danger. Grateful to have left that very day, I haven't heard of any incidents since. We don't talk much with my uncle, but I'm relieved to have possibly thwarted a robbery or worse by staying up a little later that stormy night. Shadows in the Basement, a construction worker's haunting tale. In my early 20s, I worked as a construction worker and engineer in the Philadelphia area. Our tasks ranged from basic construction work to adding structures like basements to existing buildings. In 2012, one of our projects involved constructing a small basement and extending the main floor for a coroner-dentist building. By the time of the incident, we had made significant progress. The basement had working lights and the area was sealed off. One evening, while my co-worker Jordan assisted with work on the exterior, I was tinkering with electrical components. Suddenly, the power went out. I suspected a local power outage. Without our phones due to the nature of our work, I reached for a flashlight in my vest. As I did, a rattling noise, akin to shaking a bag of coins, echoed from the tiny soon-to-be bathroom. It was an eerie sound that couldn't be explained by structural issues. Taking out my flashlight, I aimed it toward the bathroom door. Though it was slightly closed, I could hear the unsettling noise emanating from inside. Assuming it was one of my coworkers, I cautiously opened the door. To my shock, I found a person dressed in all black, facing the corner of the room, hiding their face. I slammed the door shut and rushed upstairs to find my coworkers. They were outside, ready to call it a night due to the power outage. Confirming that the 3 of them were the only ones present, I led them back to the basement to show them the mysterious intruder. However, the person was gone, nowhere to be found. Feeling embarrassed and frustrated, I couldn't make them believe what I had witnessed. We packed up and left. Alone with the key, I locked up the building after everyone had left. Sitting in my car, a strange feeling compelled me to go back to the basement. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and descended the stairs with 2 flashlights. The basement's deafening silence heightened my anticipation. As I reached the bottom step, I heard the rattling noise again, this time from the tiny room. Without looking, my heart raced, and I hurriedly ascended the stairs, slamming the basement door shut and locking the building. Relieved that it was a Saturday and I didn't have to return until Monday, I vowed not to work alone in that basement again. Fortunately, we completed the project within a couple of weeks without any further strange occurrences. A night of unexpected intrigue and escape. It was just an ordinary night in the frosty month of February. My wife and I were cozied up in bed, enjoying a late-night movie. Suddenly, the TV went dark, and annoyance filled the room as lamps, clocks, and everything else followed suit. A clear sign of a power outage. Determined to unravel the mystery, I volunteered to check if our neighbors were facing the same predicament. Braving the freezing cold, I stepped onto the stoop for a brief moment, scanning the neighboring houses. The reassuring glow of lights in their windows suggested that our power outage was a solitary misfortune. Our fuse box was located in a small boiler-type room in the basement, although it seemed unlikely that it was the culprit. With a flashlight in hand, I descended the stairs, a unique feature of our house where you had to walk down to the basement door, placed right at the basement level. Fatigue weighed on me, and I lazily stomped down the steps until I reached the basement door. Turning the doorknob and attempting to push it open proved futile. It seemed my wife had locked it. I trudged back upstairs to inquire about the basement key. My wife, with a hint of amusement, retrieved it from our kitchen's key hanger. She teased me for my struggle, and with the key in hand, I descended once more. Inserting the key into the lock, turning it to the right, and attempting to open the door again proved fruitless. Frustrated, I called for my wife's assistance, adopting a somewhat childlike demeanor as she was the designated door locker. Descending the stairs with a flashlight, she playfully mocked my wooden door struggles. Without even using the key, she turned the doorknob, gave a firm push, and the door creaked open. Dumbfounded, I insisted that the door had refused to open for me. Light still eluding us, I entered the basement, flicking the light switch, only to be met with darkness. Armed with flashlights, I headed to the boiler room, flipping switches until the basement lights finally flickered on. A sigh of relief escaped me as I closed the tiny door to the fuse box. However, a sound from outside the boiler room disrupted the calm, the creaking of one of the basement closet doors. Peeking outside, I observed one door closed and the other slightly ajar. Heart pounding, I approached the door, standing 2 feet away, listening intently. It dawned on me. Why would the switch in our fuse box be suddenly turned off? What if the basement door was never locked, and someone was merely pulling it shut? In the silence that followed, a deep exhale emanated from the closet. Fear gripped me, and I sprinted up the stairs, ensuring to lock the door behind me. Racing to our bedroom, I distressingly informed my wife, acknowledging that I wasn't acting as the typical man of the house. Despite my fear, I called the police. Before their arrival, a chilling sound echoed, the shattering of glass outside. Peering through the window, the dark backyard revealed nothing. Upon the police's arrival, we led them to the basement, only to find the closet door wide open, the space empty. Shattered glass and scattered items told a tale of escape. The intruder had climbed a ledge, smashed a window, and vanished into the night, evading capture. That night, we kept the basement and living room lights on, locking every door in the house. The following day, we had the broken glass fixed. Living in what we considered a safe neighborhood, it was a stark reminder that such unsettling events could happen to anyone. House sit haunting tale. My friend Aaron asked me to house sit for him while he went on a 2-day business trip. His uncle, who had dementia, usually lived with Aaron's grandma, but she was away with a church group. Aaron explained that his uncle was fully aware of my presence. On the first day, I spent my time mostly in the backyard or in the living room, reading, tanning, and watching TV. I cooked 2 meals, leaving extra food for Uncle John, but I never saw him come out of his room. When I went to check on him, I heard grunting, assuming it was his way of acknowledging me. That night, as I lay in the spare room, I heard unsettlingly quick and heavy footsteps in the hallway. The footsteps rushed down the stairs and back up to his room. It was unnerving, and I couldn't shake off the intensity of those footsteps. The next day was similar, with Uncle John avoiding me. I noticed him looking at me through the window from his room, making me feel uncomfortable. That night, I heard creaking sounds from his room and saw him sitting on a chair staring at me. Startled, I screamed when he approached me, covering my mouth with his hand. I managed to escape to a bathroom and locked the door, listening to his footsteps rushing back to his room. Terrified, I called Aaron, who didn't seem overly shocked. He suggested I sleep in the locked bathroom, hinting that Uncle John might be potentially dangerous. I barely slept that night, and when Aaron returned, he paid me extra for what I had to endure. I urged him to seek serious help for his uncle, as I still couldn't comprehend Uncle John's intentions that night. The whole experience left me uneasy and concerned about Uncle John's well-being. The enigmatic encounter at the abandoned family resort. About 15 years ago, when I was just a kid, I found myself at an abandoned family resort with my best friend Jackson. Tucked away off a main road, down a private dirt path driveway entrance, this place in the city sprawled with a collection of old, abandoned buildings. There were at least 10 small bungalows, a main hall, a few bathroom stations, and an indoor pool house, all surrounded by an outdoor pool, shuffleboarding area, and a kid's playground. The entire property wore the charm of its age, with overgrown grass adding to its mystique. Our discovery was purely accidental, stumbling upon it while walking down Route 209. That night, well past sunset, we returned to explore further. The sun had bid its goodbye, and darkness enveloped everything. We chose the cover of night to avoid the risk of getting caught and charged with trespassing. Armed with walkie-talkies and flashlights for communication, we began our adventure, deciding to split up and explore the bungalows. Most of the bungalows looked similar, small, with 1 or 2 beds, a small kitchen, and a single bathroom. Some even had cozy little living room areas. I split off from Jackson as he moved at a slower pace, attempting to enter a building that seemed to be the main hall or office, only to find every entrance locked. After notifying Jackson through the walkie-talkie, I received no response, leading me to wonder if I was out of range. 2 minutes later, I found myself near one of the 2 bathroom buildings. It was a roughly 400 square foot structure with no doors, just 2 big openings for the men's and women's rooms. Faded and worn-out signs adorned the entrance. As I ventured inside, I noticed peculiar red tracks on the dirty old concrete bathroom floor. I won't claim they looked like bloody footprints, but the mystery of those red marks lingered. The bathroom was pitch black around the corner, making it the first building that genuinely scared me. Trying to reach Jackson on the walkie-talkie, I pressed the button and asked, "Yeah, where are you?" The beep sound that followed indicated a received message, seemingly from inside the bathroom. The near heart attack I experienced made me think Jackson must already be inside, explaining the red-looking footsteps. Calling his name echoed into the bathroom, and as I was about to step in, Jackson's voice called out from the distance behind me in the darkness of the night. He was getting closer, guided by my flashlight, and I excitedly yelled back that I found his walkie-talkie. However, he cautioned me not to go into the bathroom, revealing that he never went in there. We turned around, hurriedly leaving the scene, and the quick press and release of the talk button caused the beep again from inside that pitch-black women's room. Jackson and I exchanged glances and began dashing in the direction we came. Back at Route 209, catching our breaths, Jackson recounted his own chilling encounter. In one of the bungalows he entered, he tried to walkie-talkie me, but received no response. Hearing a noise from the living area, he turned around, and his flashlight revealed an older woman almost running towards him. In his panic, he dropped his walkie-talkie and flashlight, ran out from the bungalow, and hid in the dark, fearing being followed. After a questionable amount of time, he looked around, spotting my flashlight across the field at the bathrooms. The most plausible explanation seemed to be that some troubled soul, perhaps a drug addict, was hiding or living in that abandoned bungalow. For reasons unknown, they lunged at Jackson, picking up his walkie-talkie. The presence of a trail that looked like blood in the bathroom remained an enigma, leaving me with theories but unable to explain it all away, the scariest part of the entire experience. The Eerie delivery encounter. Before diving into the hustle of office life in the city, I spent 2 years as a UPS driver, navigating through the ins and outs of the job. It was 2010, and I had graduated from college 2 years prior. Working the 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock shift on a Thursday during the winter meant my evenings were enveloped in darkness by 5 o'clock p.m. I wasn't residing in a sunny paradise like Palm Springs. Instead, I found myself in a small town in North Carolina. I won't label it as ghetto or sublime, but it wasn't exactly a pleasant area. My deliveries often led me through this town with its peculiar housing situation. Some blocks were packed with houses and trailer homes, oddly spaced, while others stood completely desolate. This spatial arrangement made deliveries a bit challenging, as houses were scattered far apart, requiring a more strategic route. One evening, a little past 6 o'clock p.m., as my shift was winding down, I found myself on one of those streets with spaced-out trailer homes and small houses. The deliveries had spread across 3 different small towns, and I was left with not too many packages. One particular house on this block required a signature, meaning I couldn't leave it on the stoop. Pulling up in front of the house, I retrieved one of the largest and heaviest boxes of the day from the back of the truck. The box contained an odd assortment of small metal pieces, creating a mysterious curiosity about its contents. My task was simple: lug the sizable box to the front door of the trailer home. This home had no doorbell, so I knocked. No lights were on inside, and with no car in sight, I hoped someone was home. After a few knocks, I noticed movement behind the curtains, and footsteps approached the door. However, when the door finally cracked open, a suspiciously long pause ensued before an older woman peered out. She seemed fidgety as I explained the need for her signature, and she opened the door reluctantly. A bit reluctantly, she signed the device. But then, she asked for my help to carry the box into her room. Expecting this, I entered the trailer home, and immediately, a foul odor engulfed the space. Navigating through a narrow hallway, struggling with the heavy box, she led me to a back section behind the tiny living room. The stench intensified as she directed me to a door, instructing me to maneuver the box into the closet at the back of the room. The request seemed standard until she mentioned that the light didn't work. Entering the room, nearly pitch black, with only a faint glow from the living room lamp, I approached the closet. As I got closer, I noticed a figure standing in the corner, unmistakably a person. There was movement, and it made no sense. The person was hiding, waiting. Without hesitation, I left the box, walked past the woman, wished her a nice day, and promptly left. She screamed at me to return and help her, even hurling insults my way. I had no idea what she and the person in the closet were planning, and I had no intention of finding out. I continued with my shift, and that night marked the beginning of my search for a newer, better job.